The next transform property value that we'll be talking about is translate. Translate is going to move an element left, right, or up and down. The movement is based on the parameters given for the x, which is the horizontal axis, and the y, which is the vertical axis. The page that I have so far has two divs. They both have a class of box, and each one is uniquely targeted B1 or B2. I've colored one blue and one yellow, and they have border radius of 3 pixels, a width and height of 100 pixels, and a margin of 100 pixels. I'm going to apply a position of absolute, and when I do this, it's going to look like we only have the yellow box, which is the second box, B2. And that's because since I positioned them absolute, they're sitting right on top of each other. In this example, I'm going to move the second box 20 pixels to the right and 20 pixels down. To do this, I'm going to use the translate property, and I'll do this on the hover state of B2. So I'll make a rule for B2:hover. We're going to specify the transform property with the translate value, and the translate value is going to take 2 arguments passed into the parentheses. The first one is for the horizontal offset, so I'm going to use 20 pixels. I'll set a comma, and then I'll use the vertical offset, also of 20 pixels for right now. If I save this and refresh the page, when I hover over, you can see that the yellow box moves 20 pixels to the right and 20 pixels down. And then we can clearly see the blue box behind it. Because I want my animation to appear smoother, I'm going to use my transform property. The transform property is going to have to exist on the box style. So I'll go into the box style and we'll add a transition. I'll set that to transform, and I'm going to tell it to happen in 1 second. If I save the page and we refresh, now when I hover over, you can see how there's a smooth animation when the yellow box moves away from the blue box. It is worth noting that in addition to moving something down and to the right, if we wanted to pull this object up and to the left, then we would use negative values. So if I change this to be a -30 and -20 for the y value, the translate arguments that we're going to pass on are going to be for x and then y. So x is the horizontal offset, y is the vertical offset. So when I specify these values, if we look in the browser, the yellow square is going to move 30 pixels to the left and 20 pixels up. So in this way, you can control in what direction you want your element to move. Remember that positive x values moves the element to the right. A negative x value is going to move the element to the left, and a positive y value is going to move the element downwards, while a negative y value is going to move an element upwards. You can get a lot of mileage out of using translate. You remember how before we were using margin to animate something and move it. Translate does the same sort of thing without having to deal with the margin setting.